One of my responsibilities at the All Stars Project over the years has been to create the environments that allow our young people and poor adults to speak openly about their poverty so that they can embrace and reorganize their relationship to their shame and humiliation. This experience is key to their development. Another has been to bring together our poor kids with our affluent and mostly white donors. Their sharing and giving of their poverty and their privilege contributes to our capacity to create an environment, a developmental environment, where they can grow, play, and work together. This coming together has all kinds of possibilities. Creating contexts in which young people can come out as poor is critical to their development. In one of the All Stars Project programs that I created and run in New York City, I recently had a conversation with a group of young people who were being trained to work with a group of donors, where I asked the kids if they were poor. All 6 of them said no. I then asked them where they lived. All of them, of course, lived in some of the poorest communities in the city. I then gently raised this contradiction, and we began to unpackage the content, the subjective and objective experiences of a poor life. Often in conversations, when young people are asked to explain why they think they're not poor, they say things like, because I'm not homeless. I know that sometimes our electricity is turned off, but we make out okay. We live in the projects, not the streets. We live across the street from the projects. We are not always on welfare, and the one I hate most, poverty is just a state of mind. I wonder who teaches them that. One thing that always emerges is their fear that if they acknowledge they're poor, others will know and treat them differently, not realizing that others already know and they already treat them differently. However, the issue is, given that their poverty is what they mostly have, how do we make use of it to help them to grow? One of the more powerful things that we teach them is that their poverty is not their or their parents' shame, it's America's shame. And that piece of reality helps to free them up to think about possibilities in ways that they never have been able to. So all of our young people here have been strong participants in the All Stars programs and events. From our annual fundraising galas and luncheons, they have played a role as spokespeople and trainers to our donors and adults, and they volunteer for everything. Cleon Barrett is 21 years old and lives in the Queens Village section of Queens, New York with his parents. He's currently studying theology at Macedonia Theological Seminary, and he spent 1 semester at Queens College. He works part-time in an after-school program transporting and tutoring kids. He is, as you saw, a spoken word artist, singer, and musician. He's been a part of the All-Stars since 2006, and he's participated with me in 2 major performances of Operation Conversation Cops and Kids. Vianney Edwards, who's sitting next to him, is 17 years old. She's a high school senior who lives in the Far Rockaway section of Queens, New York, with her mom and brother. She was chosen to participate in a 10-month writing program for teenagers called Word Lab at Theater Development Fund. Vianney has been part of the All Stars since 2013 and has done everything that I've asked her to do. She's participated in a performance of Operation Conversation also. Daniel Hernandez is 19 years old and lives in Oakland, California with his parents and 6 brothers and sisters. He's a sophomore at Berkeley City College. During his freshman year, he worked part-time tutoring middle school kids. Now he's a full-time student. Daniel participated on a panel with me at the annual conference of the American Educational Research Association in San Francisco in April 2013. He was so good, I brought him back. Janetta King is 19 years old and lives in the Flushing section of Queens, New York, with her mother and younger brother. She is active in her church and volunteers as a mentor for LGBT teen organization. She was a cast member in the recent performance of Operation Conversation Cops and Kids. Last week, she accompanied me to the City Council hearing that I referenced in my talk. Finally, not a kid, but a very important part of innovations in dealing with poverty and attempting to do something about it is a very special professor. His name is David Grusky. He's a professor of sociology at Stanford University and the director of the Center on Poverty and Inequality. His research examines changes in the amount, type, and sources of inequality, asking questions like, how should poverty be measured? And can we develop a new system of poverty indicators that are just as influential as our widely watched indicators pertaining to employment and unemployment? Dr. Grusky also served as a panelist and responded on our panel at the American Educational Research Association's conference in San Francisco. Let's give them all a round of applause. So guys, hello.
Hello.
How's it feel to be in Dallas?
The weather is awesome. Yeah, pretty great since we're all three of us are from New York, and New York is just flooded with snow right now.
Yeah.
Pull your mic closer. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we heard you though. How many of you have been on a plane before? All of you? Good. What was your family's response to your going on this trip? Did you tell them? Janetta?
Yeah, I told my mom as soon as you called me and asked me, and she was really excited for me to go. She really wanted to go herself just to see me. And the morning I left, me and her were up at 5 o'clock in the morning having some really awful coffee. And she was like, I'm really proud of you, you know, and she was actually sharing with me her experiences that she had with UX with you.
Terrific. Daniel?
Well, they were congratulating me, you know, because of my hard work. And they told me just behave, number one thing. And they said just keep working and life will keep rewarding you with your hard work.
Thank you, babe. Fiona?
So my mom was basically like just reminding me to like not embarrass her. But she's really proud of me. She knows like how much I've grown, and so like she thinks it's pretty awesome that I'm on a panel and stuff like that.
My mom asked me to see if they can keep me over there. So.
Thank you. When did you first realize that you were poor? Why don't we start with you, Cleon, and make our way back?
I think I've always realized it. I think the real term is when I've accepted it. And for me, it was when I graduated high school, and I was trying to go to college, and when I took out a student loan for me to go to college, and I had to drop out of college even after taking out a loan, is when it really hit me more that I couldn't even finish a semester of college based off of, you know, one loan.
How'd you feel about that?
Angry and saddened.
Mm-hmm. And what have you done with that anger and sadness?
I think like everyone else who can either take that to go negative or positive, I've tried to take it to motivate me to go past the walls that I've been trapped in for so long, and to see what I can do to bring me and everyone else out that state of poverty.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Rihanna?
I think like, well, I didn't always know that I was poor, but I always knew that I wasn't like rich. It's pretty obvious, but like, I think that I figured out that I was poor when it was just like little moments in my life that would, let me know. Like, for example, I would be like I wouldn't get allowance, and I know like normal people, I hear normal people get allowance, and like anytime I asked my parents for money, there wouldn't be any money, like, or we'd always have to like make like $10 last for like a week, and like I found out later on in life that normal people or non-poor people are not like, they don't live like that, but for me it's like a normal thing, so yeah.
Daniel?
Well, I realized I was poor when I was young, when my father, and my mom got separated. Living in Oakland, we moved to Fresno. That's when I realized, things got tight. My mom was on child support, welfare. She only had $200-300 per month, maybe $600, but then she had to pay the rent. So she only had $200 and we didn't have nothing. We had to like go to Goodwill. And it felt bad, just having no money. Like I see the other kids in Fresno, they had all this, they had this entertainment, they had this experience. I didn't have nothing, so then that's where I realized, I'm poor, I'm broke. I gotta work hard.
Thanks, babe.
I think I always knew too, like, growing up, I didn't really ask for much. I always knew that, as soon as I get 16, I would get a job. That was my main focus beginning high school, was, get a summer job, get a job here, get a job there. That way I wouldn't have to ask my mom for money I knew that she didn't really have.
Mm-hmm. What's been one of the worst experiences in your life as a young poor person? Janetta?
It has to be between watching my mother struggle and this one time I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and in the middle of the morning, like really early in the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning, the housing police was knocking, like literally trying to bang down her door because she was getting evicted. And that's just always stuck with me.
Dan?
Well, I have many awful experiences, Well, I can talk about one of the latest, a couple of years ago. My brother has a mental illness, and I was, hanging out with the wrong crowd. So then he actually met them first, so then I followed him. But I'm not sick from the mind or anything. I have no mental illness, but he does. So then he takes, medication. So then with that medication and doing, alcohol, drugs and all that, he went out of control. He ended up in a psychiatrist, clinic. So that was a pretty awful experience, Me, instead of influencing for the better, I was doing the opposite. It was just, horrible seeing him in that situation. And that was like a key moment in my life that made me, change and look for a new direction, for better, things to happen.
Thanks, Ben.
For me, I think the hardest thing that I struggle with is like seeing all the men in my family, like, they're like, I'm trying to find a word, but it's like they have no hope and all of their lives are just screwed up. If they're not on drugs, they're in gangs. Like both of my cousins, their brothers, they're in jail for I think it's 30-something years, but because they robbed a bank, because they don't have any money, and they did it together, but all of the men in my family, it's just like they're just going downhill, and they're living, but it's like they're living like a dead life. It's kind of depressing.
What's the experience of having someone close to you who you love dearly be sent to jail for 30 years?
It's kind of hard. I get emotional when I speak about it, because it's the reason why they stole is because they don't have any money. And so like their life is thrown away because of something that they don't have any control over. Like they can't control the situation that they're in. So like, what are they gonna do? They're either gonna go and like shoot someone or rob someone, or like a bank, like what they did. Like they're gonna rob a bank and like their life gets thrown away after that. So it's not their fault. I still love them, but it just sucks.
Have you seen them?
No.
And when's the last time you saw them?
A year ago, I think. Maybe a year and a half.
Thank you. Cleon?
I would say one of my worst experiences was when my mother got sick. She's the breadwinner in my family. And when she got sick, it was another time where I really experienced, how much, she provides for the family. And I had my family members breaking down, and people in my family all around, cousins everywhere, I didn't realize, how much of a huge part that she played, not only in, just my immediate family with my brothers and sisters, but all over between cousins and everyone. And when she got sick, I saw my dad and my sisters and everybody who was older than me, in a state, that was just really hard. They were saying that, it was on the level of saying that she would die. And it tore them apart. And I remember my dad having a conversation with me, telling me, he was trying to explain to me who I would go to, in the case of my mother leaving me. And that was hard for me, because it was then where I realized, like, wow, we really have nothing if, it's coming down to this type of conversation.
Mm-hmm. How have you all been impacted upon by the All-Stars? What's your development look like? How have you grown? Cleon, why don't we make our way back?
I would say I learned how to navigate.
What's that mean?
And in terms of, in every meaning of the word, I've learned how to navigate to the city. Number one, because before the All-Stars, I didn't even know what New York City was, but the Manhattan. And so,
and you live a half an hour by train away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I never experienced, that part of New York until then. I was just in Queens or in Brooklyn. And so, that brought a whole new experience to me. And then, I learned confidence and whatnot, and how to speak to people, and how to take what's given to me and use it to the best.
Thank you.
Okay, so like, in a nutshell, like what the All-Stars like has done for me is like, it kind of made me like the awesomest person. Like I'm like in love with myself, because like I've grown so much, and it's like I've been a part of the All-Stars in like for like a little over a year, but like in seeing like how much I've grown in just a year compared to like 16, 17 years, it's like I'm not proud of myself. I'm proud of you guys for like making me who I am today. It's great. Everything that they do, it like has a purpose, and it makes you grow in like every aspect of your life. Like you can learn everything from like, you can learn anything from everything that they do. All you have to do is just listen and, be nice, be respectful, be on time. And, they teach you discipline, and they teach you how to be like an awesome, professional person.
I think you all are pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Daniel?
Well, the All-Star has had a big impact on my life. I was in, concurrent enrollment, doing high school credits and college units. Point where I was, deciding, should I stay in school or should I go get a job, work full-time, buy the things I never had. I stopped living in a room with all my brothers. One day, the All-Stars came to my little school, did a presentation. It sounded good, a job, an opportunity. I took advantage. And little by little, with all the workshops and all the, the different events I've been to, I have grown, foresee a lot of things I can do in life. And then if I keep, with my education, as well with doing curriculum activities like this, will keep on growing, keep branching out and become somebody someday. So that's the great impact.
Daniel, you're already somebody today. And how do your little brothers and your cousins, who a lot of whom are at least the older ones in the street, how do they respond to you?
Well, my brothers in particular, they actually they tell me, hey, you changed. You ain't the same person. What happened? I noticed their influence. Also people where I go to church also have a lot of friends there. Same thing. I tell them about the different experiences, the different things I've done, and little by little they start, comprehending, understanding, and also want to get involved. So I think it's a good thing, for the better.
Tell me a big way in which you've changed.
Well, for instance, I value my resources better now, my time. I use my time to study and not just be on the streets or doing, senseless things. My money, I actually now use it for my everyday needs, not just for things that no good. They just, instead of benefit you, they just hinder you more. So in those aspects, and also being more respectful, being less, having less hate, less animosity against people, having more love, and being more positive.
Ms. Jonetta?
So before I came to the All-Stars, I was...
Speak into the mic.
Before I came to the All-Stars, I was a good student. But when I came here, they asked me to perform on stage. That came pretty easy to me for some reason. And then they asked me to do a statement. That came even easier for me. So now that I'm at the All-Stars, I just grown to love being on stage. And I really didn't know that. I really didn't know that Hunter Hunt was gonna come to a DSY luncheon and then be here in Dallas and tell me that, oh, I saw you before. So that was really, so DSY, the All-Stars, has really changed my aspect on who I want to become in life.
Thank you. The final question for you all is, people always say to me, how could you talk about this stuff publicly? How could you speak about poverty? You shouldn't talk about it. It's not really poor, blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about speaking about this in front of an audience? And one day we're going to speak about it in front of hundreds of thousands. So what do you think about that? How do you feel about opening up your life and speaking about poverty?
I know that once I get off this stage, I'm going to have just this weight lifted off of me, because not only am I sharing my problem and like my situation at home, I'm releasing it. It's just, it feels good to talk about it, to have other people just sit here and listen to every word that I say, even if I say a lot, or if I stumble or something, at least someone's there to listen to me.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, first and foremost, inside I'll feel better, like she said, or less lighter, have less, weight. And also sharing this, these stories and our autobiography about our lives, it also, is going to help y'all have a better understanding of how hard it is to be poor in different communities. And it also give you a better sense of what, if y'all like to, contribute to this, and how can I do it, and what can I do, and the steps I can take, and just, build a better relationship with the lower class people. And I think it's going to be great, it's just working hard.
Thank you. Vianney?
I think that it's great to have a weight lift off of your shoulder. The more I talk about certain things, it's the more comfortable I feel about it. I think that when we're given the opportunity to speak about things that pain us, that cause pain to us, like, depending on like how you do it, you can talk about it and like complain about it, but as long as you, like for me, I keep in the back of my mind like I may be having an impact, so my story can like help someone else, and I'm representing like people who go through poverty like every day, like people like me. I'm representing them, so like I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for like other people. Yeah.
In agreement to what she just said, you know, the more I sit here and speak about it, it's instead of a weight being lifted off my shoulder, I would say that I just feel, just talking about it, I feel the pressure of not what I've gone through, but of everybody around me who's going through the same thing, and knowing that I have the opportunity to share that light, you know, of what's going on, because I'm not, just like she said, we're not just speaking for ourselves, you know, it goes beyond that. You know, I'm speaking for my cousins who are going through worse than what I'm going through. I'm speaking for my friends, you know, who refuse to get out of that place. And, you know, and I'm realizing that it needs to be talked about, because, you know, and it's a conversation that we're told not to speak about. And the more we don't speak about it, the more no change can come about it. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity to express what goes on in the world, because what's happening right now is that we're just in two different worlds, and without knowing what's going on in this world, you just have your own opinions and your own assumptions of why that person is acting the way they're acting, or why they're being that way, without actually knowing what actually goes on. And to actually express that, you know, makes me know that some change can actually come.
Thank you.